just like we always talk about, we talk about how the left eats itself, right? We talk about how the left destroys itself. It nukes itself. It lights itself on fire. And the left's darling children, darling babies, darling celebrities of yesteryear become today's devils, demons, and derogatory statements. And folks, Governor Andrew Cuomo is no different. This is Business Insider, all right? There are articles after articles after articles on leftist run stations right now, news stations, websites, just destroying and tearing up as best they can in their code languages Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, the one who all of a sudden, after Trump now has left, is wanting to reopen the doors of his destroyed city. Sir, you're going to have to send in Snake Plissken to help escape from New York when we're done, because this is ridiculous. All right. You've destroyed your city. There's nothing left. There's nowhere for anyone to go. There's no way, even if they reopen the place, you've turned your country into a third world, not even country, your state, all right, sorry, into a third world shithole. A third world shithole. I'll say it. I've been to a lot of them. Is what it is. All right? Good people there. Not talking about the people in the third world. All right? I'm talking about the governments, the systems, the money, the way it's run, the corruption. All right? The control. That's what makes a third world shithole, not the people. So don't let the left tell you you're a racist or tell you you're an idiot or tell you you don't know what you're talking about because they want to play word games, folks. When you say third world shithole, you're not talking about the good people of some of these countries. You're talking about the politicians, the policies, the government, the corruption, the cesspool, the disgusting sin that makes a third world shithole. And like California, Andrew Cuomo, congratulations, you and de Blasio have turned New York into a third world shithole. Now, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about the celebrity that is Andrew Cuomo, the Emmy winner that is Andrew Cuomo, the one, the only Green Goblin. He does look like the Green Goblin. Just saying. He's a bad dude. This guy is a self-righteous, pretentious, his own shit doesn't stink. So delicious, wealthy, jerking around with his brother Chris. Folks, is a bad dude. And now it turns out that he killed 50% more of the elderly in New York by throwing them back into the retirement homes while they had COVID. And who let people know? Well, of course, the same people that were touting and praising him just months earlier. Folks, I think their conscience has hit them in the gut. I think the left is done with Andrew Cuomo, and I don't know how he's going to recover from this. Why don't we start reading? This is Business Insider. This article is called Cuomo Lied, and now we know about it. All right. This is from Anthony Fisher. All right. Anthony Fisher wrote this article. And like I said, it's on MSN.com, Business Insider. Cuomo lied. And now we know about it. All New York Governor Cuomo had to do was admit he made a well-intentioned mistake when he ordered nursing homes to accept COVID positive patients. You know that the Cuomos are not capable of admitting a mistake. You're talking, look at Chris going out while he had COVID or not following the rules while telling everybody else to follow the COVID rules. These are hypocrites. These are just old school Guido jerk-offs, plain and simple. These are the type of people, all right? I'm from South Florida, all right? And every time I dated an Italian girl, and this isn't against Italians, all right? There's plenty of great people out there, regardless of their race. But if you're from South Florida, you'll know about this. There's always one or two families where you'll date the girl, you'll date the guy, and they'll be like, hey, my uncle's in the mafia. My uncle's in the mafia, man. You don't want to screw with us, bro. That's definitely not what the girls I dated sounded like. I wasn't like, hey, sweetheart, how you doing? And she's like, yeah, bro, my uncle's in the mafia, bro. No, that's not. I'm just trying to talk about the dude thing. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is that Cuomo's the type of guy, both of them, him and his brother, where you feel like you'd go up to them and they would show off. They'd be like, yeah, man, this is my $17,000 rug over here, and this is my $14,000 painting of Mao Zedong, and this right here, this is my golden Emmy. It's so amazing. It's what, they all hate on Trump. They all talk about how Trump is this horrible dude that talks himself up, but at least he does it in public. At least he's honest about who he is. These people are slippery snakes. All right. Governor Andrew Cuomo profited off of death. The ultimate sin, greed over murder. He murdered these people. Listen to this. Instead, he's giving conflicting explanations and said it's a phony Republican-made controversy. Now the state's attorney general has released a report confirming that Cuomo's order put nursing home patients at increased risk of harm, and the state undercounted the nursing home death toll by possibly over 50%. Ladies and gentlemen, 50%. At some point, all of this tap dancing, finger pointing, and brazen mischaracterization of indisputable facts needs to be called what it is. And what it is lying. Remember, folks, this is MSN.com. They're talking about their beauty queen here, their pageant boy, their top dog, Andrew Cuomo, the best governor in the universe, the best governor on Mars, Pluto, Jupiter, Planet X, and Nibiru, Governor Cuomo. Nowhere near as bad as DeSantis. Wink, wink. Just kidding. DeSantis is like the awesomest governor around right now. That mistake, all right, that Andrew Cuomo made in this pandemic, all right, the mistake of putting people in nursing homes with COVID, all right, that mistake may have very well contributed to the deaths of thousands of elderly New Yorkers, but there's no reason to believe when he ordered nursing homes to accept COVID-positive patients in March, that was anything other than a well-intentioned and based on his best judgment. This is what I'm talking about. When they say that it's nothing other than well-intentioned and based on his best judgment. This is MSN. This is a left-leaning site. Completely left. I don't even know why I'm saying leaning. It's a left site. There's tons of these left sites, and they're all crapping on Cuomo. Now, they're tap dancing around the words, not necessarily tap dancing around the facts, but they're making it sound less harsh than it actually is. Here's the whole thing. Look, they just accused him of lying and then said, it's a well-intentioned mistake. See, they're not planning on holding him accountable. They're just putting out the facts so they can say, hey, they said it, just in case he ends up coming down, getting taken down. These folks, these people surrounding him, don't go down, don't go to jail with him. You see where we're coming from? That mistake may have well contributed to the deaths of thousands of elderly folks. Mr. Cuomo, your mistake did contribute to the death of tens of thousands of elderly folks in the state of New York. I don't care if it was well-intentioned. I don't care if it was based on your best judgment. You wrote a freaking book and told everybody how awesome you were and made millions of dollars on the deaths of these elderly COVID patients, and their family members somehow still vote for Democrats. Amazing work brainwashing the population, sir. Amazing, amazing work. You should get another Emmy just for that. The governor's judgment proved poor in this case. Poor for killing thousands of people. That's what you get when you're Governor Cuomo, right? When you're Governor Cuomo, your judgment is called poor when you kill thousands of people. When you're Osama bin Laden and you bring down the towers in 9/11, they go on a 12-year manhunt for you, though the authenticity of that manhunt is now under question as well. We don't know what to believe anymore, do we, folks? Crazy. Poor judgment. Furthermore, under Cuomo's leadership, if you want to call it that, New York flattened its curve faster than any other state with an early deluge of COVID cases. I want to translate this to you. Okay, folks, because they're not going to mention that anymore in the article. I'm going to read this again, and I'm going to tell you why. The governor's judgment proved poor in this case, but it was the start of a pandemic, and the scientific information was conflicting. Furthermore, under COVID's leadership, COVID Cuomo, that's what we should call him. Under Cuomo's leadership, New York flattened its curve faster than any other state with the early deluge of COVID cases. Let me translate for you what that means. That means they flattened the curve because everybody died. When 30,000 infected elderly people drop dead of COVID, the curve goes down. Because the data isn't there anymore. The people that had the COVID went from alive with COVID spike to dead, meaning less COVID, flatten the curve. So by murdering old people, Andrew Cuomo flattened the curve of New York. Great job. What's that tell all the other governors? So ladies and gentlemen, what they're saying is if the governors of your state just murder you, all right, you have COVID and they just shoot you in the chest, hey, we can flatten the curve that way too. But obviously we'd have to go full in the way of AOC, though I wouldn't doubt that the left doesn't want that solution. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying, ladies and gentlemen. Cuomo's daily press conferences in the early days of the pandemic, similar to Rudy Giuliani. How dare you compare the press conferences of Andrew Cuomo to that of Rudy Giuliani in the days after 9/11? That's subliminally saying, all right, subliminally saying that this was Andrew Cuomo's 9/11 and he's just as good as Rudy Giuliani. Listen, all right, thousands and thousands and thousands of lives could have been saved in these Democrat states if they would have just followed the data and not followed their hate for Donald Trump. That's the truth. That is the truth. The reason we're still talking about that order is simple. All right. The order of putting these old people in the nursing home. That's what he's talking about. The reason we're still talking about that order is simple. Andrew Cuomo can't admit he made a mistake. He should be prosecuted for his mistake, ladies and gentlemen, plain and simple. But a new report from Attorney General Letitia James, the same one that wants to prosecute Trump for nothing that he actually did, confirms what has long been suspected. Andrew Cuomo lied. All he had to do was admit he made a mistake, and he still won't. Quote, government guidance requiring the admission of COVID-19 patients into nursing homes may have put residents at increased risk of harm in some facilities and may have obscured the data available to assess that risk, the AG report says. See how that saves her own butt, by the way? Government guidance requiring the admission of COVID-19 patients into nursing homes. It didn't just increase their risk of death, but it obscured the data. So how could Letitia James, how could any of us have known the data was messed up because of Andrew Cuomo's order? They're selling him out to save their own butts. That's what you're watching. That's what's happening. That is human nature, ladies and gentlemen. And just as crucially, the report says nursing home resident deaths appear to be undercounted by 50%. 50% a big number, folks. While the undercount may seem like a technical glitch, in actuality, it was self-serving accounting. Patients who came from nursing homes and died in hospitals were not counted as part of the state's tally of COVID nursing deaths. Do you get that, folks? If they were transferred to the hospital, then they didn't die in a nursing home. Therefore, they weren't your elderly nursing home death. That is a intentional manipulation of the facts to benefit Andrew Cuomo. He should go to prison on that alone. Plain and simple. Both of these takeaways from the AG's report directly contradict the public data that had previously been provided by the Cuomo administration Department of Health, as well as the administration's self-investigation that cleared itself of any responsibility for the state's spike in nursing home deaths. When Democrats and mainstream media outlets asked for an independent investigation and transparency on the state's data, Cuomo repeatedly painted such calls as ugly politics and below-the-belt Republican partisan tactics. He didn't want anybody to look at the facts, folks, not even members of his own party. The selfish, lying, disgusting creature that he is. Andrew Cuomo's not even a human being at this point. Disgusting. Meanwhile, he wrote a book. This is even more so proves what I just said. Meanwhile, he wrote a book on leadership during the pandemic in which he barely touches on his nursing home order, but uses lawyerly doublespeak in the brief moments when he does acknowledge it. Cuomo's book, released in October 2020, concludes with the chapter titled The Aftermath. The governor has offered various conflicting explanations of the order. He said he had no choice to make the order because he had to follow CDC guidelines, but he's also cited his health department's report that put no blame on the order for nursing home deaths. And he even tried to memory hole the order itself, literally saying that it had never happened. That came out of his mouth, folks. These explanations cannot all be true. And they're not true because Andrew Cuomo's a liar, just like his brother Chris. Crazy, crazy, crazy. At some point, all of this tap dancing, finger pointing, and brazen mischaracterization of indisputable facts needs to be called what it is: lying. Asked about the AG's damning report in a Friday press conference, Cuomo doubled down on his accusations of political skullduggery, blaming the former Trump administration Health and Human Services official Michael Caputo for making his disastrous nursing home order a political football. Cuomo knows there were serious issues because of the order. The media, lawmakers in his own political party, and even the AG of his own state have said so. But despite all available evidence, he dismissively and willfully misleads the public by claiming this is nothing but a Republican fabricated controversy. You notice how this article, because it's on MSN, it gets more damning as you go through, but it's so long that by the time you get to the bottom, people probably wouldn't have read this far. So it kind of excuses MSN News and all these people from holding themselves accountable when it comes to saying what's true or not true. So they're saying what's true, right? But most people aren't going to see it. So they're kind of killing two birds with one stone there. Really screwed up stuff. Cuomo's been feted across the country. He was COVID's earliest media sex symbol. He even got an Emmy for his press conferences, but he can't even admit he ever made a single mistake. Folks, how do we celebrate these people with such horrible qualities, these criminals, ladies and gentlemen? They're criminals. They're crooks. They're people that don't have honor. They don't have the skill set to do the right thing. It's called integrity. It's called integrity, ladies and gentlemen, doing the right thing in difficult situations, even when nobody is looking. And Andrew Cuomo, sir, you have no integrity, you dog. If he had admitted the mistake, he could have shown leadership. Instead, he lied, and now we know it. Andrew Cuomo's never shown leadership. Not one time. Him and his brother are left-wing lapdogs, benefactors of foreign money, and disgusting sellouts of the red, white, and blue. Plain and simple, ladies and gentlemen. Cuomo, if he recovers from this, is proof that the system is systematically flawed, but not systematically flawed with racism, not systematically flawed against minorities. No, ladies and gentlemen, if the system is systematically flawed in any way, it's flawed and skewed against the little guy. Left or right, black or white, it doesn't matter. If you are the worker bee in the United States of America, the system is systematically flawed to keep all of us down. Not on skin color, not on belief, but because we are not part of the elite ruling class. This, from the beginning I've said, there is no race war. There is only a class war. And it's the class of the rich elites pitting the little guy against each other so that they can get this country back to the way it was, lining their pockets while the bullet train heads towards the wall of socialism. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't allow that to happen, and the Andrew Cuomos of this world will pay a dear economic price for their treason. Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here, and thank you for watching that clip. Folks, I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much that we're going to be going old school and finding ways to hit the street in a town or city near you. What do I mean by hit the street? I mean street team, folks. Old school 90s lanyards, pamphlets, stickers, and there's going to be a special surprise for all those who participate. Folks, if you want early in to what you're hearing, if you want to know more about what I'm talking about there, do me a favor, email me directly, JamesLane@AmericanReveille.com. That's James Lane at AmericanReveille.com. There's going to be a very, very special secret benefit to those who want to participate. Besides that, head to the website. You see it right there on the screen, www.AmericanReveille.com. That's www.AmericanReveille.com. You see that big green button? It says sign up. Hit that button, folks. Sign up for the American Reveille newsletter. Sign up for Project Underground Railroad. What this is going to do is, while Parler's down, while everything's a fritz, while people don't know what up is and what down is, what left is and what right is, I'm going to give you some daily updates, keep your mind in the right track, the right frame, keep you headed in the right direction, and update you on how we are organizing, working together, and building a coalition of like-minded individuals. Folks, big things are coming, and they are going to be magnificent, and I want you to be a part of them. So please, please, please keep informed. Sign up for the newsletter at www.AmericanReveille.com. If you're still with me, if you still want to help out, do me another great favor. Head over to Rumble, folks, www.rumble.com, and find me there, American Reveille. The name itself is American Reveille put together on the channel. So American, REVEILLE, if you search for it. One word, all right? American Reveille. And subscribe there. We're trying to build a base there. We're trying to get off YouTube and some of the other places that are cutting our distribution. We've already been shadow banned off of Facebook, off of Twitter, off of everywhere else. But folks, I'm not some kid. I'm not some quitter. I'm one of you. I'm a blue-collar, white-knuckle American, a calloused hand, hard-working SOB. And they ain't going to kill me off of that easy, folks. So we're going to go old school, like I said, and we're going to have more news about that coming very, very soon. Again, thank you so much for watching that great clip, and make sure you tune in next time. Bye.